really there's three reasons that people don't do video content, right? Number one is
Yeah.
people are like just deathly afraid to get on camera. And it's funny that way because people are on Zoom all the time and have no problem with it at all. But the second that you tell them that they are
Yeah.
recording a video that may potentially go somewhere else or be online or whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's like they are a different person. And that's ultimately how my business started. Is
Mm.
because I had a
Right.
friend, my buddy Sal, who is a real estate agent, and this guy is one of the most charismatic and like best looking movie star good looks, right? And one of the most
Mm.
charismatic
Yeah.
and well spoken people that you'd find. And I said to him, if you want to build your brand on social media, we got to start doing videos. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I really dread that. And I'm like, okay, well, look, here's the thing. I'm just going to give you a quick topic, a quick question to answer. All I want you to do is hit the button on your phone, record it, send it to me, and then I'll walk you through and show you what you need to do to edit it. And he sends me this video, and I'm like, it was the worst thing I had ever seen in my whole life. I'm like, where's Sal? Like, where's the Sal? Where's this Sal I know? Where's my friend Sal? Right? Um,
Yeah. So his personality just didn't come across in the video. He's turned it
yeah,
off.
he was just so nervous and like just not like
Yeah.
himself. And it was just horrible. And I was like, all right, Sal, I'm like, I got an idea. I'm like, why don't you come with me? I'm like, I'm gonna send you a link. And I want you to come into this studio with me. And I just want to have a conversation back and forth. I'm just going to ask you some questions about your business, real estate, whatever. You don't even need to look at the camera. Just look at me and have a conversation. And we had a 20-minute conversation and we got enough footage to get 10 videos. And that was the moment that I knew like, okay, I got something here. This is a potential business. And I started doing this for so yeah.
So let me stop you there for a moment, Danny. So what changed? Because when he came into the studio to talk to you, you switched the cameras on, you turned the mic on. What changed for Sal in that
because
moment that allowed him to to
because
to
we
be
were just
natural?
having a conversation.
You were out for a beer, it was the
Exactly.
same chat.
And that's the hang up that most people have when they go to start doing video, is that they think they need to put on some kind of persona and some kind of performance and that they need to be like a movie star actor. No, that's not the case. In fact,
Mm.
people don't even relate to that type of content nearly as much as they relate to the more conversational style of video. There's two styles of video now on social media. You've got the video where I'm going to speak directly to the camera and I'm going to give you my top three tips for making videos online. And or there's this style that we are doing right now, a conversation. And the people that are watching it are almost like a fly on the wall listening in to your conversation. And that first style, that lecturer style, where you are going to again talk into camera and give your insights and give your tip, it's really hard to get good at that. And it takes a lot of time and a
Yeah.
lot of practice. But for people that, but if you do the alternate style of video, which is this kind of just laid back conversational style, you don't need any practice. All you got to do is have somebody on the other end and share your insights and share your stories and talk about what you're doing in your business and talk about what you're doing with your clients. And the pressure to like perform melts away and you don't have to worry about it. And that's the difference between like being able to create high quality video content without having to do a lot of practice. And anybody that is an expert, anybody that is like you said, entrepreneurs and consultants and solopreneurs, they can all do this. Anybody can do this. I mean, we are on Zoom every day already. I mean, we're talking to our clients. We're talking to potential clients, sales calls. Maybe we run works. People probably run workshops. There are people that tell you that they can't and they're afraid to go on camera, but they run a workshop for their clients. People come on interviews and do podcast interviews. This should be the foundation of everybody's content.
Yeah, and, you know, what shocked me, particularly about the guys who said, "No, I really wouldn't have had to share," was these are people I know, and I know pretty well. And I'm thinking, like, I've been in social settings with you. I've been in professional environments with you. You're impressive, you know? Like, some of these people, one of the guys I've seen stand up and talk, and I've told him, "Guy, you really impress me when you stood up and talked to that group. But we switch on the camera and you're this nervous this nervous ninny." And, but again, I say it wouldn't surprise you, but it really surprised me. And when you were talking there about this whole conversation thing, and I was thinking of, as I started doing the podcast and selecting guests, and I don't want to class myself, but I consider myself an introvert, and I'm not one of these people that can walk into a bar and kind of chat to anybody. I don't have that skill. I have a wife who's incredibly good at that, so I delegate out. I don't have that skill. So when I select people to talk to in the podcast, I will first. I mean, you know, I will have looked you up on YouTube. I'll have listened to you. And it's not a logical thing, it's an instinctive thing. I go, if I sat down beside you in a bar or sat beside you in an airplane, does this seem like someone I could have an interesting conversation with? And if I instinctively go, I could have a chat with this guy, we've interesting things to talk about, then I know I can have a good conversation. Um, but a good conversation then, I think, is much more interesting to the listeners than if I have the 10 top questions I should ask Danny, because now I'm ignoring you, by the way. I'm just going through my questions, and it lacks authenticity. And, I you know, it seems I don't want to get into. I think when we become natural at this, it's simpler than people expect it's gonna.
Absolutely. And most of my clients that have been nervous coming into like their first film session are actually very surprised at what the outcome is from the first session. Um, because they're just like, oh, that was easy. All I did was just talk to you. Right. And the reason that like I can do this well is because I've done a lot of research on these people prior to going into the conversation. I've had a one-to-one conversation with them, and in that one-to-one conversation, I have intimately got to know them and their business. I ask questions around like, who their target client is and what are some of the big wins that they've had with their clients and like, what are some of the big questions that they get from their clients? And I really work to like understand that person's business and then at the same time, then I research that industry that they're in. I research their target market and like what questions are they asking and what are they paying attention to, right? Because then we can kind of reverse engineer the the questions that that you're getting to make sure that when you interview people for content, or when I interview people for content, I'm not trying to stump you. I'm not trying to try to make you look
Yeah,
good here,
yeah.
right? So like if I'm just asking you questions that like you're used to answering all the time for your clients, like you're not going to be nervous to answer them. And that's the big difference.
Yeah, and you get to, I'm gonna say, you get to reveal yourself then. But I mean, most founders and business owners are in that business, if they're successful in that business, because a few reasons. One is because they're very passionate about it, and they're also very experienced about it. And if they're successful, they've helped lots of people. And so I suppose all you're trying to do is get that out, as you say, as opposed to a pitch. I know one thing you're saying is, do you think this is now a much more it's kinda not advertising, but it seems like it's a much more powerful form of advertising than me just stick I don't know, what advertising people do now, but this seems to be non-advertising and yet somehow much more engaging.
Yeah, 100%. And I wouldn't say that it's pre-advertising, basically. That's what it
Yeah.
is. Like every social media video that you create or every piece of content that you create and put it out on the internet, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, right? Every single piece of content is like a free advertisement for you and your business. And you don't need to go and tell people like, I have this program and this is the program that we do and this is how it works. No, that's not what works. What works is like, tell me what you are doing for your clients. Tell me what your clients are doing. How are they winning? What problems are they encountering? And how are you guys facing those problems together? And that just helps people to understand a little bit about how you work and like what that your capabilities are. And you don't need to really like advertise because most people don't really want to advertise themselves. Most people are very adamant about not doing self promotion. I never ask you to promote yourself ever. That's not part of what we do. The goal is to build credibility, it's to build trust, it is to build connection and to show that you have expertise, that you have knowledge and expertise that could potentially help somebody. And when somebody sees you over and over again, at some point, something that you say is going to be like, that is what I need. That's exactly what I need. And that's when people will start to raise their hand and reveal themselves to you. And that's when you start to get inbound leads from content. But it's
You yeah, you said something very interesting there. You said, um, I think you said trust. It was you're building trust, you're
connection,
building
credibility,
connection,
familiarity.
right? Yeah, and fundamentally, it's that old saying, everyone loves to buy and no one wants to be sold to. And we buy from people we trust, we like, we feel are credible. And it seems that when you listen to someone talk, I suppose it's exactly like what I said to you earlier about getting people in the podcast. I often get, names sent to me. Would you interview this? Would you interview this client of mine? Blah blah, from marketing companies and book companies, etc. It takes me about 60 seconds on video to decide whether I will or not, because once someone speaks and we can tell and I don't know how it is, but you can tell very quickly whether you have a connection with someone, and I think that's what it's given people the opportunity to do. It's to reveal themselves. It's to show themselves, and then, as you rightly say, some people go, "I wouldn't like to work with that guy," and some people go, "Do you know this guy, Danny? I could. He seems like he understands this, and he seems like he'd be an easy guy to work with," and that's the
Exactly.
more that
And
you want.
and when I get on a sales call with people, like typically one of the first things that I hear is, "Oh, Danny, I feel like I know you already." Because when I pop on
Mm,
the call, I look exactly the same as I look in all of my videos, right? So I kind of have this signature look. I wear my hat a certain way, right? And it's very intentional. It's definitely attracts the right people to me, right? It repels some of the wrong people to me as well. So that's another thing. That's another good thing. It does filter out some of the people that I probably wouldn't really vibe with anyway. Some people look at the whole, kind of hip hop look that I have and say, "Oh, that's just not for me." And that's great. Like we probably wouldn't vibe working together to begin with. But people come on these calls and they're kind of pre-sold already because they know what I do. They know I'm an expert. They already feel some kind of connection and rapport to me. And typically when you jump into a sales call, it's with somebody that you never met before, defenses are high. And like when I get on a sales call, the defenses are already down. I don't have to break down the defenses. I don't have to build that rapport and do that kind of, fake chit chat that people try to do at the beginning of a sales call to break down the defenses.
yeah.
It's already done. All I need to do is understand whether they have a problem. I ask them questions, which I'm a good interviewer, so I'm good at asking questions, right? Uh, I learn if they have a problem, and then I just show them how my service can solve that. And it's very
Mhm.
simple. And then I say, and if you feel like, and at the beginning of the call, I say, and if you feel like it's a good fit, and this is something that might help you, then we could talk about pricing and next steps.
Yeah, but you said something there I think is really important. You said that when you get in the sales call, they feel like they know you, and that's because they largely do know you. And I don't know what the statistics are. I'm no expert in marketing, but they say that people there's a certain amount of your content that people have to consume before they drop into this level of trust. I don't know what it is, maybe, a certain number of hours. And once people consume that level of content, they feel they have this connection, know you. So if someone has listened to your podcast or spent, 5 or 10 hours consuming your stuff, they bloody well do know you. Okay, they don't know your personal life, but professionally, you've been particularly if it's a conversational style. Because if I bring you on here and I say you make a presentation, now we're seeing this is what Danny wants to present to us. But if we have a conversation in how you engage with me, they get a sense of who this guy is. So I mean, that is the thing. People do know you. And I think the great thing about that is that you talked about filtering people. And I think people forget that we want to attract to us the right audience and we want to repel the wrong audience. Because otherwise, you're going to waste half your time on Zoom calls with people going, this guy's never gonna work with me. By the way, I don't wanna work with him. I don't wanna work I mean, but I mentor CEOs and founders sometimes, and sometimes I get asked if I will work with companies, and I go, "No, I don't work
Mm.
with companies." "What do you mean you don't work with companies?" "No, I work with founders." I'm not interested in working with companies because that's just, don't
Gotta
I'm
get
not
through the
interested in that
corporate
shit.
red tape
But
and
if
everything.
yeah, I mean, I don't need your money, and I'm not interested in that. So I only do things I want to do now at this stage of my life. I work for companies. But if a founder who connects with me wants to work with me, that's a different thing. So that it has me filtering out bullshit. And for all of us, I think we want to do that. We want to narrow in to those clients who really connect to us, who really get to know us. And that's a one. It's just a wonderful tool. But back to my early question, what's the fear? I mean, because I say I'm stunned, but is it? Because I think two things. We've been talking about this for 20 minutes, and there's got to be people thinking, shit, he's talking a lot of
Mm.
sense, this Danny guy. He's making it sound so easy. But there's probably there's probably an unease as to whether or not they're going to go back to their office and switch on the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there
There's another
is there an
Yeah, there's another
insecurity? Yeah.
thing that holds people back too, is that there's a comparison is the thief of joy, right? Right?
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
what happens is that people compare whatever their first attempt at a video to whoever their favorite video creator is, right? So let's choose Hormo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where the whole
yeah,
team
let's
has been
choose
for 5 years.
Hormozy, right? Like everybody knows
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hormozy. He's this big entrepreneur influencer type who's done probably tens of thousands of videos on social media, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
and
And
has a
as a
whole
whole
team that
team.
helps create those
Yeah.
videos. Or Gary V, same
Yeah.
thing, right? Like one of these guys. And
Yeah, yeah.
basically they look at these
Yeah.
guys' content and they're like, I want my videos to look like that. I want my video
Mm.
presence to be like that, right? And when they make a video for the first time, they're comparing it to somebody else who's done 10,000, 20,000 videos. And it's like, you're not comparing apples to apples here. So a lot of times what I do is I tell people, go whoever your favorite video person is, whoever that I want to know who that person is, because that's the person that you're going to compare yourself to. Just naturally, that's what people do, right? So what I'll tell that person is I want you to go back, way back, and I want you to find that person's first video. And I want you to compare yourself to that because that's what you should be comparing yourself to, right? So that's one of the things like, that's in people's heads too. Then
But that's really hard not to do.
it's hard not to do, but
It's re
but
it's
it's
hard not
but
to do,
when
yeah.
you start when you go and actually do that exercise, when you actually go and look at
Yeah.
Hormozy's first video or something, you'd be like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna give myself a little grace.